Joined by three-time Super Bowl champion of the New England Patriots, Willie McGinest. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Rich, you have outdone yourself.
Well, I mean, what can I tell you? This is my hotel.
Amazing.
I'm checking you into my hotel.
Yes, you are.
So welcome. We welcome you with open arms. Richard Sherman might have a different take on this. You saw Richard last night,
yes,
right? Because you were on the field of the Pro Bowl doing the in-stadium interviews. The one that you conducted with him and the rest of the Seahawks, I couldn't hear, Willie.
Yeah.
Because the crowd was lustily booing.
He was
the
showering with boos. Yeah, and you know what? It seemed like they fed off of that. He was excited, and he said, you know, when you do this interview, just expect the whole stadium to erupt, and it did. But they love it, and I think that's what's special about Richard and that group of guys. They embraced the boos, and they kind of fed off of it. They laughed about it, so it was fine.
Yeah, they embraced the hate, and the thing that I also love about Richard Sherman is he will just shoot from the hip, and he will basically say what's on his mind. Yep. There's not much of a filter, and I'm not one of those guys in the media that really invites the sound bites, and then when they finally get one that's compelling, rip the athlete for actually speaking his or her mind. I want to play this particular soundbite, though, for you. This was Richard Sherman when asked what he thinks the penalty that might get handed down to the Patriots would be if they found to deflate the footballs on purpose. This is what he's had to say.
I think the perception is the reality. I mean, it is what it is. You know, their resume speaks for itself. You talk about getting close to the line, and it's said in a second. I mean, I don't really have a comment about that, but I mean, their past is what their past is. Their present is what their present is. And will they be punished? Probably not. You know, not as long as Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell are still taking pictures at their respective homes. You know, I think it was just at Kraft's house last week for the AFC Championship. You know, you talk about conflict of interest. But you know, as long as that happens, it won't affect them at all.
Wow. Yeah. What do you think about that, Willie McGinest?
Well, I mean, Richard is outspoken, and he, you know, everybody's entitled to opinion, and you know, I understand that, you know, Roger was at that AFC Championship thing that Mr. Kraft has every year, but I don't
what does
think
he do? Like, if he's in the championship game, he has people over to his house the night before?
Yeah, a lot of different people, and you know, I don't think one has to do with the other. I don't think that the commissioner will be leaning towards Mr. Kraft because he was at an event at his house. Now, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I guess the investigation will tell it all. Mm-hmm. I have no knowledge of what's going on with that.
Sure.
I'm just listening to everybody's opinion, and I'm listening to the ex-players, you know, to people in the media, what they think. And everybody is entitled to that until the investigation happens and they, you know, they discover what really went down.
Now, clearly, if Paul Allen invited Roger Goodell to a party the night before an NFC Championship game, the commissioner's going to that too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He works for all the owners.
And the thing too, and this is sort of indicative of this whole thing, argument that we hear in the conversation, that it shifts one conversation to the other, and by that I mean Tom Brady threw an interception with a supposedly advantageously deflated football. This is a guy the commissioner's not going to penalize the New England Patriots because they're tight, and yet they went ahead and tested the footballs in the middle of halftime of an AFC Championship game, as opposed to maybe lifting the phone and saying to New England, hey, we're hearing about this. They went ahead and did what people are calling a sting operation. So why would that happen if supposedly the commissioner and Robert Kraft are tight?
Well, he has to do his job, and he is the commissioner of the league, and he does work for the NFL, which is composed of all the different owners. But at the same time, he has to be, you know, stand up and do his job and make sure that the integrity of the game is upheld. So, I mean, that was the first half. The second half, when they took all the footballs away, that's when the game got out of control.
But what do you say to people who say, you know, it's the Patriots? They're always up to something. They go right to the line, and then sometimes that this is something absolutely that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and this franchise of trickeration would be up to. You basically represent the franchise. How do you respond to somebody?
Well, the one thing is, everything that happened in the past, I figure that they have dealt with, and they got punished for it, and it's over. And if there's something new, and you got to understand with the Patriots, they're always trying to find different ways to what we say, push the line. And Is Tom probably the only quarterback that like his footballs a little bit deflated? I've heard a lot of quarterbacks come out after this incident and say, no, I like mine a little under or a little harder.
Right.
And does that really make a difference?
I don't think it does. I can't tell the difference. We tried it ourselves.
And I don't touch the football. I'm on defense. So the only error I knock out is of offensive players who had the football in their arms.
I like it. Speaking of which, hold on a minute. We're going to bring on, come on, Luke Kuechly. I see him back there. Luke Kuechly is here of the Carolina Panthers. Here he comes, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, fresh off the Pro Bowl field on the stadium that's behind us. Luke, good to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. Please sit down. Speaking of linebackers and hitting people hard,
yes,
this guy is
early
that.
and often.
So how was it in the Pro Bowl last night?
Oh, it was awesome. You know, we came out there and the stadium was packed. You know, that's one thing I didn't know what to expect when I got down here. You know, we were trying to buy extra tickets at the hotel the night before the game, and they said, you know, it's sold out. And guys were like, yeah, no, I don't know if it's all the way sold out. We got out there, and every seat was filled all the way to the top, so we had a great experience last night.
Luke Kuechly sitting here with me on the Rich Eisen Show and the Rich Eisen Hotel, if you will, with Willie McGinest here as well. Covering Rob Gronkowski. There's a Patriot fan sitting over there in the, I guess, what would you call it, the flannel shirt right over there, Brockman?
I mean, this is J. Crew. It's very stylish.
Very nice. He would obviously take issue with the word covering with you with Rob Gronkowski, as I'm sure you've heard that one before, Luke Kuechly. What is it like? What's the challenge for the Seattle Seahawks in this game on Sunday with Gronk coming at you?
You know, first of all, he's a big target. He's big, he's wide. You know, I think he moves well. He's got big hands and he's strong. And I think he does a good job of creating separation. And you know, you got a quarterback like Tom Brady, and you got a guy like Gronk that's big. He can create some space. He catches the ball very well. He uses his body strong. You know, it's a situation where you got to make sure you're on top of it. Yeah, I don't know what quite their defensive strategy will be, but you know, he's big, fast. He can create space, and the ball is always right where it needs to be with Tom Brady back there.
What about you, Willie?
Well, you know, there's a lot of different ways to cover Gronk. And like you said, it could be with a linebacker, with a safety over the top. The one thing you hear a lot of people say is, with this day and age, the tight ends are getting free releases. Nobody's jamming the guys at the line to slow them down, to throw the timing off from the quarterback. And what happens is some safeties are too small. So he bodies them up and he gets position. And most linebackers, you know, not Luke, of course, he's pretty fast, but they can't run with him. So when you line them up in the F, the fullback position, the H, outside in the X, in the slot, then you take certain guys, whether it's a linebacker or a safety, you kind of expose them because now you got them out in space where they're not used to covering a guy like Gronk. A guy like me, I would probably try to put hands on him, get in the trail technique, and I would definitely need a safety over the top.
Luke, I'm here with Luke Kuechly, Willie McGinest here on the Rich Eisen Show. How good is Bobby Wagner? Luke?
I think Bobby's a great player. He came out with me. We trained together before the combine, and you know, there was a little bit of that time in the season where they didn't have him. I think he was out for a couple weeks with an injury, and they came back. In that last few weeks of the season, they played exceptionally well. I think, you know, they were allowing under 6 points a game or whatever it was, but he can do a little bit of everything. He can blitz. He's got great speed. He's strong. I think one thing that he does exceptionally well is lead. He gets guys lined up. He's got the mic. He can call out formations, and he's one of those guys. You know, I go watch film sometimes with the offensive guys, and they're like, we got to know where 54 is.
Interesting.
You know, yeah, so they got to account for him. He's one of those guys they look at and say, we got to know where he is.
That's what, before the divisional game? You were overhearing stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'll go and talk to the guys, and they'll be like, we got to know where he is.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sure, you know, people obviously in the other locker room were saying that same thing about you, Luke. I mean, linebacking mentality in a game like the Super Bowl, Willie, or a game like the divisional playoffs, when you know that you are the guy basically having so much of the load on you, what is that like?
I think Luke and Bobby share the same qualities. And we were talking about this in makeup. And the one thing that they
Something, by the way, you don't hear from the linebackers too often, by the way.
One thing that they have in common that makes these two linebackers so great is, first of all, it's preparation. So they're not thinking out there, they're reacting. Being able to diagnose plays, knowing what to do, knowing how to do your job, it makes you comfortable. So when you're the general out on the field, or you're the leader, you're the play caller, you see the formations, you can make those adjustments, those in-game adjustments. You can get guys lined up. And when something happens and you're not sure of, you can get everybody on the same page just to live through the down, that we call it. And if you watch the way he plays the game, He's so fast to the ball. He's on those screen plays. As soon as the players are not getting yards after the catch because they understand and they know what to do. So once the play happens, they're already on it.
How about you, Luke?
Well, my mindset, going into the divisional game is, and especially that, that opportunity is to do your job. Don't let the game get bigger than yourself.
That's Belichick's line.
It's a simple thing, and you do your job. You rely on the other guys in the team. You count on your guys behind you, in front of you, on either side of you as a linebacker. If I do my job, everybody else to get there. And when there's situations in the game where if the A gap's mine, I go take the A gap. If I don't take the A gaps, it's going to pop. So, I get good trust in the guys on my team that, if I do my job and they're all lined up where they need to be, we'll be okay.
Yeah, and, the footballs with the Vikings against your team, right? Didn't that happen? Wasn't there a ball gate situation with your team and the Vikings this year?
A ball gate?
There wasn't there. See, you didn't even know.
Well, yeah, it was the coldest day in Minnesota, 12 degrees, and I guess you guys were heating the balls on the sides.
Is that what happened?
That was the original.
Look at this. This is just the most ridiculous
guys don't
subject.
Care about the football.
This football stuff is truly the most.
Just got to get it right.
Yeah.
The fans have voted. Let's move on. We're away from
it just seems to me, again, every time we bring this up, it's two issues. It's one that it's just does it matter in the game, and the other one is like a rule is in place for a rule. And every time I speak to somebody who plays the game, they're like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, just got to.
You're like, what?
For us, just get to the ball.
Get to the ball and take the ball away.
So, Luke, before I let you go, the Carolina Panthers season with Cam and his car accident and how it all changed around even in the midst of all of that. How would you have rated the Carolina Panthers season, Luke Kuechly?
I think it was really a tale of two seasons. I think towards the end of the season, I think the grade would have been higher than the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season, we had some issues. Guys weren't there. Cam was hurt. We had some other issues. We started very slow. As the season progressed, Cam got healthy. We got some guys back. Some guys stepped up. And I think as we progressed, the grade got higher and higher. Obviously, it's not where we want it to be, but we made some good strides there at the end of the season.
Well, it's great having two great linebackers, one who won 3 Super Bowls and one who's on a career path to have your day in a game like one this weekend, not just a Pro Bowl. So, Luke, thanks for joining me here on the show. I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you very much.
That's Luke Kuechly, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year of 2013.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.